Hello and welcome to the Worn and Wound podcast. My name is Blake Bettner. I am joined by Zach Kazan. Hello, Zach.
Hello.
Zach Weiss. Hello, Zach Weiss.
Hello. From Geneva.
We are not in our Brooklyn studio today.
We're not even in a studio.
We're not even in a studio. We are on the show floor here at Watches and Wonders in Geneva. We are bringing you our reactions to day one, all the news, some of the watches that we've seen, some we have yet to see. But we thought we'd get into it all. So, before we do, Zach Kazan, what's on your wrist?
I'm wearing a Grand Seiko SBGH 271. It's the only watch I brought on this trip.
The only watch you brought on this trip? I like that. Okay. You know who was complaining to me? Somebody, I won't name his name. But
This is the time to name names.
He had like 20 watches packed, and he forgot the thing, so he only brought 4, and he was worried he wouldn't have enough coverage. One watch? I like that. That's bold.
I'd like to know who that is.
Himself from potentially losing another 16 watches.
Yes,
So
there you go.
This is all high risk.
Zach Weiss, what are you wearing?
I am wearing the Anordain white gold Model 2. God, I forgot the number. Model 1?
That's Model 1.
It's Model 1.
Yeah.
Model 1 white gold LE that we launched sometime last summer. It's a nice like dress casual or business casual here. I think is what we'd agreed on.
That's what they asked us to
Some
do.
There's a range though. It's highly interpretive.
Highly interpretive.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am wearing a Daytona from Rolex. So that rounds us out. Patrick's over there. Hey, Patrick. What do you got? He's got a glycine on.
I do.
I like that glycine.
I have a glycine airman.
The glycine airman.
Vintage,
So
late 70s.
is that a GMT?
It is 24 hour.
Yeah.
But no GMT hand.
But no GMT hand.
It's a true.
It's just a true 24-hour watch.
Yeah. With a bezel letting you.
We have seen GMTs seem to be a theme.
There's a lot of GMTs.
Here these days.
Not just here, but the last few months.
The last few months, we've seen some great
GMTs.
true GMTs releasing.
The collar GMT is dead.
Is this
R.I.P.
Is this the final nail in the coffin? Yes. So let's start with Tudor. This was the first watches that we saw today.
Mm-hmm.
There was a GMT there.
It's
That was
true.
quite impressive. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so we often joke about how we make incorrect predictions for Tudor. In fact, it's become a running gag. One that
Notorious.
we're probably not going to let up any day soon. But one of those hopes, dreams, predictions, if you will, finally came true a couple years after we probably made it, and that is for a 39mm Black Bay with their true GMT in-house movement in there. So in 2018, the Black Bay 58 came out, so did the Black Bay GMT, and immediately people were just like, but I want that and that.
Yeah, naturally. And here it is. This is
It's a Pro.
It's a Pro.
Not a
It's a
58,
Black Bay
guys.
Pro. So this is maybe a new collection family.
Yes.
They said it was a new collection, yes.
Okay.
And the fact that it has a complication is what distinguishes it from a Black Bay 58.
All right. As well as the fixed bezel.
Right.
It's like not a diver.
Yeah. Specifically not a diver.
So that's a good point. This is a fixed steel bezel on it with the 24-hour markings, a little reminiscent of a certain Explorer 2 1655 reference.
Which, dare I say, probably my favorite vintage Rolex period.
Awesome.
Every time I come across those, wherever I'm looking, I'm always like, oh, God, that is just a beautiful watch. So I'm pretty excited that there's now something that was kind of the Black Bay that I also was hoping and wishing would come out. Because, great size and GMT complications is fantastic. And it's a great movement. It's 70 hours stuff on escapement chronometer. It's like a powerhouse of a movement in there in general. But it also kind of looks like a watch that I highly desire and have no expectation of ever owning. So there's a lot of wins here.
And it's in the family, like it's acceptable, quote unquote. I don't know. We put up a video and immediately comments started coming in comparing this to a Steinhardt.
Oh yeah, no, that's the wrong direction.
Yeah.
That's the wrong direction.
So it's got that vibe.
Yeah.
1655, but it's its own thing. It's still Black Bay. It's still obviously Black Bay, right? It still looks like that. It's got the snowflake hand.
I mean, look, everything with fixed steel bezel isn't necessarily trying to be 1655.
Yeah.
I mean, that said, this is they're definitely.
There's a
quite
historical
well.
connection.
I don't think they're
that's-
unaware of the obvious look there.
And this has a what did you call it? A burnt orange,
burnt orange, you got gold.
24-hour hand.
Yeah, it's not like yellow, like lemon yellow. Like I just want to stay away from saying yellow because it definitely has a more of a rich kind of a color to it.
And one of the more interesting details that I thought here were the hour markers, the application of these. So this is like a built-up pile. That sounds sloppy. Stack of loom.
That is the technical. Yeah, it's the built-up pile of. No,
That's what it says in their press material.
It is.
It's very strange.
It is actually some sort of creation of their own. I mean, we've seen sort of like printed loom before, or molded loom, but this apparently has some sort of ceramic component to it. So it's
ceramic
sort of,
in the loom. We cannot get away from the ceramic in watches these days.
But it's really quite thick and tall, so you really see it from. You can see it from the side, and it's all glowing, right? So it's a three-dimensional glowing object.
Yeah.
Three-dimensional glowing object. That sounds nice. And so the side glows as well as the top, which is interesting, and I feel like. I mean, that should have some legibility, increased legibility in certain, instances.
I feel like Ferrer has done something like this with the kind of tall pieces
tall
of loomed.
Also,
It's a cool look, and the color is unique here. Did it read to you right off the bat as, oh, this is like a faux Tina type thing, or this is just the color of these hour markers? And it's also copied on the base of the date. Wheel.
There is no white on the dial. Everything is off-white, but it's the same off-white. And I guess you could in theory say they were going for the look of what an aged white might be.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have that like radium burn sort of a color to it. It's sort of earthy. It's warm. I did not look at that watch and think that this was trying to look like it had been, sitting in the sun or something for a long time. Yeah. In fact, looking at photos. It read more dark than I remember it being. Like in my mind, it looked like a modern watch. Some hints of vintage trappings, but not.
Yeah, a deliberate choice for the color, which is fine, I think. And this is priced under $4,000.
$4,000 on the bracelet, and that is the steel rivet bracelet with the T-fit clasp.
T-fit clasp,
which. They put that on the Black Bay 58 Bronze Boutique Edition, so that's a bronze bracelet. They put that on it. Everyone's like, when can I get that for my steel bracelet?
That's right.
And they're like, right now you can't. People pulled their hair out.
That was a bit of a stink, I remember, yeah.
The only thing is I don't know because this is a different case. It is a thicker case, which there's some controversy over because there has to be controversy over everything.
Yes.
This case is around 14.5 millimeters thick.
But it's a domed.
None of us remember it seeming thick.
It's not all in the slab of the side.
No, I mean the side. It definitely is thicker.
It's chunky, but when I tried it on, I didn't know the height measurement, and I asked the Tudor representative who was showing us the watch how thick it was, and I was shocked when he told me it was 14.5 millimeters thick. Yeah. It does not, and I'm sensitive to that. Like I like a thin watch. It does not wear.
So that's a good sign. That's a good sign right off the bat, I think. And
it definitely didn't feel like the height of the older Black Bays, which just feel more colossal.
Because the Black Bay GMT, I feel like you notice that immediately, just because the side of the case wall felt like it had all the height like right there. So, awesome job on this one. I think it's a good price point. I think this will be hugely popular.
$675 if you don't go for the bracelet, which save a few bucks.
Yeah, no brainer. Well done, Tudor. There. Anything else at Tudor that you guys found interesting?
So they released new variants, I guess you'd call them, of their original Black Bay GMT, and also the Black Bay chronograph, an update to last year's model that was introduced, both in their two-tone steel and gold variants. So the GMT definitely is calling back to like vintage Rolex, the root beer references from the 70s and 80s. The chronograph is very cool. It has a gold dial with black subdials. It's a lot of gold. It's really.
Is that a thing? Is there too much gold ever?
Not for me, man.
No.
Just bring it on. More gold.
Bring it on.
The right amount of gold.
Just pour it all on.
That said, I don't know if on bracelet. I mean, bracelet's got even more gold. It's got that gold center link, which
I like that. I think if you're going to go for a two-tone, like because the two-tone on the dial and on the casework is so subtle, I think that kind of amping it up a little bit on the bracelet is nice. And you can always put it on a strap or whatever if you want to.
You know what I also like about this is that now I can save $35,000 on that Speedmaster. That
Yeah.
I was saving. I had my $5 a month, so I was going to take it home.
Yeah, no, you just had a windfall basically. Yeah.
So thank you. One thing suspiciously absent, a new Black Bay 58 variant. It's still just the original in the blue one.
Well, and silver and gold. I mean, those are 58s, but yes, steel 58s have not changed since the blue.
Yeah.
But
yes, steel. Yes,
yeah.
My apologies there. But we kept
Remember
saying,
all those weird watches that came out last year?
surely there's going to be another steel variant of the 58 released this year. No?
Yeah.
All right.
But you got kind of part of the way there because, I think a lot of people are waiting for, they're always going to be waiting for some tuner. Tuner's never going to be able to get everything to everyone all the time. But, people want a non-gilted black dial 58, right?
Yeah.
This is sort of the way there, I would say.
All right.
Nothing reflected on the dial, too. This is something that occurred to me after a little while. The hands on other Black Bays are also polished. And these hands are matte, kind of pelagosy.
Interesting.
So,
okay. I like that detail. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a pro model.
It's a pro
after
model.
all. Okay.
For professionals.
Yeah, exactly, for professionals.
So, all right.
Professional what? We don't quite know.
If you make your living doing something, you're a pro, then you qualify for this watch.
If you make your living doing nothing, then you...
Amateur.
Professional podcaster.
Yeah. What is this, Bush League with these watches? So Rolex also released a watch or two today. They released a new GMT with a green and black bezel. VTLM, I think it is. And they moved the crown over to the other side. Not only that, they moved the date and the Cyclops. So you can't move the date without the Cyclops over to the other side of the dial. So now there's no 9 o'clock marker.
That would have been great with just the Cyclops.
It's just
with
the date.
No date on it.
It's the date, the Cyclops over at 9 o'clock. There's no 9 o'clock marker. Crown all the way over there on the left, exclusively in this new colorway. There is no nickname, which
not yet. There will be.
I don't want it.
I'm sure there's plenty.
I like it. And now I feel like it's like a refreshing moment for this watch. I have no.
How do you say Starbucks backwards?
I have no corny nickname associated with this thing yet.
Scub rats.
So
Scub
rats. Uh-oh. Scrub. We'll blank that out of the
Put it through like the Tenet turnstile and just like see what comes out the other.
So this is surprising. So Rolex has never had 3 different colorways of the GMT available at once. If you don't count the LN. That's another watch that I thought might come back this year.
How do you define available?
Well, available.
The loosest possible definition.
Currently on their online catalog.
Yes. This is a weird one. I did not expect this from Rolex.
It's weird for them, and it's weird.
It's yes. Yeah. I like weird Rolex. And speaking of weird Rolex, there was also a new Air King released today, which took pretty much the same dial. I think they added a digit to the 5 to keep it consistent throughout, and they put it in a new case. And I think that's the most interesting part. I'm surprised that they didn't bring this case to the Milgauss line as well and update the movement in the Milgauss line along with it. So now the new case has crown guards. It has more of a squared off profile. So now I guess this is the watch that has this is the only watch that has this new case now, which is a little strange. So I feel like that can't be the case for throughout the year, right?
Yeah.
I'll take a little more wine.
Another beer?
Yeah. We're just putting a drink order in. Don't mind us. Like I said, we're live from the floor of Watches and Wonders, so it's all right. Zach, what'd you make of these watches?
So my immediate reaction to the Rolex was positive. I thought having a Destro Rolex is really cool. I like the color combination. Without seeing anyone else's kind of like instant reactions to it, I thought it was going to be a hit. And then I start scrolling through Instagram as people on the East Coast start waking up, and the reactions are extremely negative. And I'm really fascinated by the.
How's it feel being so wrong?
I don't know. I'm never wrong, first of all.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not a big Rolex guy. Like I'm like constantly telling people how bored I am of of most Rolexes. And I thought this one was really cool, like and interesting and not boring, because I tried something like genuinely different. This is a very weird watch, and I kind of just am drawn to that. I like that about it, and people are reacting very, very negatively to it.
It's not what they specifically wanted to not be able to buy.
Exactly. They were hoping that they would be shut out of something just a slightly different, maybe more of the same.
Story behind it? Like, is there a reason for it, or is it or does Rolex not really go that far? They're like,
they've not done this colorway before on a bezel. It has no precedent.
Black and green is not, so that's a new.
Green usually indicates an anniversary with Rolex, doesn't it?
Yeah, they usually jump into green.
Every year's an anniversary.
Every year's an anniversary. So yes. So yeah, I don't know what to make of this thing. That was kind of my first take, because this is really strange, and I kind of like it. For that, I like that Rolex did this, and then they kind of like leaned into the strange territory with the Air King, and saying, yep, it's still around.
The Air King's also kind of a strange model in the Rolex lineup.
The Air King is also a strange model, yeah, and because the design came from those the speedometer and tachymeter dials of that Bloodhound, Bloodfang, thank you, Speed. Yeah, thanks. Speed Racer, ground record holder speed. You remember this thing? There's like a rocket ship with a seat in it. And anyways, that thing I think went like defunct. So that's no more. And that was the whole genesis of the design. And now I don't think they reference it anymore. It's just, this is just.
So is that why they single? Because that blew my mind actually. I didn't realize that the 5 was 5
just
and everything else was double digits. Because that would definitely feel out of balance. But maybe that is.
That was all part of the quirkiness of it. It's such a weird watch. It has like a yellow, weird scripted Air King. So anyway, so that got an update. The Milgauss did not get discontinued, which I'm happy about. I still.
Nor did it get updated?
Nor did it get updated. It's just doing its thing.
There were some Oyster Perpetuals that were discontinued, including the extremely hot Tiffany blue. Tiffany in scare quotes because it's not actually Tiffany. But so that watch is just going to be insanely valuable for years to come, apparently.
Even more. So that's Rolex. We will have we'll go hands-on with those watches tomorrow. So we'll have more to say on those soon. We'll do a comparison with GMT side by side. A GMT with its crown in the normal position, I should say. So there's a few other GMTs that we saw today. Interesting ones. We just saw an Hermes, a watch from Hermes. That was, I think we were all quite taken with it. This kind of builds on the concept that we saw introduced with their Luna model, maybe a couple of years ago. So this puts a world time module that is adjustable with the press of a button, and it moves the entire dial around the dial.
Yeah.
That didn't make sense. It moves a subdial around
a satellite
subdial around the inner part of the, which is fabulous.
Yeah.
And the watch is beautiful. The case is lovely. It comes in 2 different case sizes.
Extremely intuitive version of world timer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I will probably butcher the name. Acau.
Yeah. I mean, I would say Arco.
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 Okay.
But it's definitely French, so it's definitely not that.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
We're not French, so we can. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been destroying the French language for.
They say it very fast. We're looking at a watch. None of us are. Anyway.
Yes.
Beautiful.
We're a little too slow for that kind of stuff. These watches are really cool though. So one case is 41 millimeters, and it's DLC black, I believe.
Yeah.
And
it was neat. It almost looked like rubber. Like a part of it
it's like
is
matte.
So
it's
matte
fully
black,
matte.
Then not all of it's matte black.
Yeah. And the lugs were platinum.
Really?
I'm pretty sure the lugs. I think the lugs were platinum on it. And then there was a.
Making up a cool unicorn watch now.
I might have made that up. Maybe.
I have no idea.
And
we
then.
Don't even know what it's called.
And then there was a 39 millimeter variant as well.
39 or 38.
In steel, with a blue dial. Yes. Both really beautiful.
Yeah. I go so far to say, obviously we have more days. We've only just started looking at the watches in person. I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up being like kind of a favorite watch that isn't the Tudor Black. Like the favorite watch that I'm not going to personally ever try and buy was an expensive watch, it's over $20,000. But
yeah,
it was so cool. It's such a clever complication, a very functional complication. Sort of reminded me of like how the Nomos, Welt site works. If you push a button, it jumps a city. But here, like the time the little sub-dial time, which has 2 hands, the hour jumps on that, and the whole thing
the
moves.
whole thing
in
moves.
The city.
Yeah.
It's like, therefore, if you couldn't read the time on it, you're really at fault.
Yeah.
You know. So.
And it's a really satisfying tactile
Yeah.
feeling too. Like they really did a nice job with the with the finish of the whole thing. It's great. It's a really cool watch.
Yeah, these were lovely watches, and we'll have more details on those coming soon, along with some video of it in action to aid our inept description of it, no doubt. So that's not the only unique GMT that we saw, though. Parmigiani Fleurier has what's a GMT Rattrapante Tonda PF in some order, all those words. Point being, it is a Rattrapante chronograph. Wow.
It's not.
This is what I was just going to say. The Rattrapante is most often associated with the chronograph complication. Here they've applied it to the GMT complication. So they've stacked 2 hour hands atop one another. So at a glance, it just looks like a regular time-only watch with an hour hand and a minute hand. And it kind of retains that beautiful serenity of the Tonda, which we saw in the office not too long ago. Very fine, lovely texture on this dial. So they've incorporated a button into one of the lugs, and these have a very shapely, like teardrop lug. So a press of that button will advance one of the hour hands in 1 hour increments, allowing you to adjust to a local time on the fly, as they say. You can keep track for however long you're there, and then you can press the button in the crown, and it will send it back to the other hour hand, stacking them in alignment once again. Now, this to me is really interesting watch, and I think it's one of those things that I saw, and I kind of thought, how has this not been done before? It seems like such a natural execution of it. Usually I would expect like an AM/PM indication with something like this, but they haven't compromised that dial experience at all for this, and I think it's all the better for it. Yeah, I don't know. It's a practical, maybe unnecessary, maybe all this stuff, but it's a great execution of the GMT.
I mean, all of these things are unnecessary. Like that can't be the starting point. Like it's there's a lot of stuff that we love that's it's completely superfluous. But that's kind of the charm of it, I think.
Yes, but this is less superfluous than a lot of other complications that we've seen. There's some drumming happening. There's some drumming happening in the hall. Don't mind that.
A marching band coming through Watches and Wonders.
So, and we are back. We just got a brief hands-on experience with a Mad 1 in red.
Yeah,
Pretty
things
cool.
Happen really
Things happen really fast.
We got marching bands. We got
Marching
very
bands.
limited watches. You never know.
Back to Parmigiani GMT Rattrapante. Zach, do you have any thoughts on this watch?
Yeah, I too think it's just an extraordinarily clever watch. Like, yeah, one of those things where, I mean, I kind of get that it didn't exist because it's one of those things that's just, probably immensely complicated to actually make.
Yeah, it probably is more so than it lets on.
You're taking, there's definitely some like aspect of a chronograph in there that is not working on a chronograph, but it has, there's got to be cams and resets, and there's multiple buttons and all these other things that are going on there. And it's just very elegantly, very understatedly, utilized in this Parmigiani. It's just like ultimate class to have something that's kind of so unique and sophisticated that you might not even use often too. Which would be my one, I'd say the one drawback from that watch and the Hermes watch, frankly, is that unless you're traveling a lot, you're never going to utilize the watch for its brilliance.
You would want to find excuses to use this thing and play with it. Yeah.
It's regularly crossing over to Central Time just so I can go.
Yeah,
Indiana, my new favorite state. Jumping back.
New favorite state, Indiana. Said no one ever. Sorry.
Oh, wow. You're from the Midwest.
I'm from the Midwest, so I can say that. Have you ever been to Gary? Yeah. Anything else that stuck out to you guys? Do you want to give a shout out to today?
Shout out to the staff in the press lounge, just constantly bringing us little sandwiches and coffees and Cokes and whatever we ask for. They're great.
Staff in the press lounge. Here's to you. Yeah, no, we are just getting into our coverage here. Be sure to stay tuned to Worn and Wound for all of our thoughts on the new releases, and we will have hands-on pictures, videos, you name it, coming soon for a lot of these brands. So hang in there. And the next time we do this, we'll do wrapping up the show, and we would love your feedback, comments, suggestions, questions, you name it. So we will put something out on Instagram, I imagine, so keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, we will be here in Geneva covering all your favorite brands and watches, so be sure to tune in next time. Thanks for tuning in. Take care.